Presence of Ableism in Schools and How to Reduce Its Impact by Charlie Pettitt. Firstly, we must consider the models of disability, or in other words, ways of thinking about disability. There are two main models, the medical model versus the social model. Firstly, let's refer to the medical model. In this case, the person is disabled by the abnormalities and deficits of their own body and/or brain. Disabled people are considered broken, abnormal, or damaged versions of human beings and should be fixed. Since the disabled person's impairments prevent them from functioning normally, they need caregivers and professionals to make decisions for them. The disabled person is an object of charity and receiver of help. The disabled person should adjust to fit into society since they are the one who is not normal. Being part of society means rising above disability. On the other hand, according to the social model, the person is disabled by their environment, communication, and social barriers. In this case, disabled people are normal, valid varieties of human beings and should have equal rights and access to society, just as they are. Since the disabled person is inherently equal, they have a right to autonomy, choice, and free and informed consent in their own lives. The disabled person should be supported by society because they are equal and have a right to inclusion. Their community should adjust its own barriers and biases. Let's consider the medical model in terms of the school environment. A diagnosis or label is used to categorize students, and those with intellectual disabilities are segregated from their peers as they are viewed as not competent. Lack of progress is presented as part of the student's disability. In the medical model, professionals are the experts on disability and students are the recipients of help. For example, classroom teachers refer to experts to assist with their students with disabilities, as these are the only people with the knowledge and skills in the area of disability and education. Learning plans are developed without the input and collaboration with students and their families. In some cases, students with disabilities are placed in segregated or special classes. In this case, teachers in special education take responsibility for these students and provide a separate program. In other cases, relationships are low priority, so students with disabilities are encouraged to associate with others who have disabilities too. Whereas, considering the social model in schools, the school environment is considered as a contributing factor when students experience a barrier to learning. The school environment consists of the curricula, relationships, school culture, educational policies, and teaching approaches. Therefore, proactive differentiation is essential in effective classrooms and programs which are developed to suit all learning needs. Inclusion is not added on, but rather is the core business of schools. Students are presumed capable of learning, and lack of progress is presented as a lack of support provided to the student. Disabilities are accepted and celebrated. The curriculum builds on students' strengths. Students with disabilities, most importantly, are considered the experts of their own lives, and they have autonomy. Students, their parents, carers, and families play a key role in the development of education, behaviour and transition plans. Students are encouraged to have a voice in their own education. Social connections, networks and relationships are highly valued and are facilitated between all students. Students with disabilities are encouraged to socialise with their peers and integrate with the rest of the school body. The medical and social models of disability may also be viewed in terms of exclusion and inclusion. On the one hand, exclusion revolves around fixing the child, perhaps with special treatments, one-on-one supports or different curriculum. There may even be inaccessible spaces in the school campus, and overall there may be prejudices such as ableism. However, in terms of inclusion, this is about adjusting the physical learning and social environment. There may be integrated and school-wide supports. The entire school campus may include accessible spaces. Students with disabilities take the standard curriculum and are assumed to have capacity to learn just like everybody else. We are now going to listen to a guest speaker, Stella Young, who is an Australian comedian, journalist and disability rights activist.
I was on my second teaching round in a Melbourne high school, and I was about 20 minutes into a Year 11 legal studies class when this boy put up his hand and said, "Hey miss, when are you going to start doing your speech?" And I said, "What speech?" You know, I'd been talking to them about defamation law for a good 20 minutes. And he said, "You know, like your motivational speaking. You know, when people in wheelchairs come to school, they usually say, like, inspirational stuff. Yeah. It's usually in the big hall. And that's when it dawned on me. This kid had only ever experienced disabled people as objects of inspiration. We are not, to this kid, and it's not his fault. I mean, that's true for many of us. For lots of us, disabled people are not our teachers or our doctors or our manicurists. We're not real people. We are there to inspire. And in fact, I'm sitting on this stage looking like I do in this wheelchair, and you are probably kind of expecting me to inspire you, right?
In this insightful, fascinating and witty TED Talk, Stella Young goes on to talk about how disability is seen as a bad thing and that to overcome a disability makes you exceptional. This is further enforced by social media campaigns and memes with inspiring pictures and motivational quotes. She describes these as examples of inspiration porn, meaning content produced to objectify one group of people, in this case disabled people, for the benefit of others, such as non-disabled people. It has the effect of saying, however bad my life is, it could be worse. And this is one of the examples she goes on to talk about of ableism. According to Ashley Eisenmenger, a disability inclusion training specialist, ableism is the discrimination of and social prejudice against people with disabilities based on the belief that typical abilities are superior. At its heart, ableism is rooted in the assumption that disabled people require fixing and defines people by their disability. Like racism and sexism, ableism classifies entire groups of people as less than and includes harmful stereotypes, misconceptions, and generalizations of people with disabilities. So what does ableism look like in the school environment? Well, perhaps choosing an inaccessible classroom for a lesson, framing disability as either tragic or inspirational, showing a video in class that doesn't have audio description or closed captioning, using the disabled bathroom when you're able to use a regular bathroom, talking to a person with a disability like they are a child, talking about them instead of directly to them, or even speaking for them, questioning if someone is actually disabled or how much they are disabled, or asking personal questions such as, how did you become disabled? At Montclair State University, Priya, Lalvani and Alicia Broderick investigated institutionalized ableism and the misguided Disability Awareness Day. They looked at it through transformative pedagogies for teacher education. Disability Awareness Days are usually events held in schools which involve a variety of activities aimed at presumably increasing acceptance of individuals with disabilities. To this end, the all too familiar simulation exercises are ubiquitous. Indeed, few disability awareness events are considered complete without the obligatory simulations of particular disabilities, such as wearing blindfolds while attempting to navigate one's environment, wearing socks on one's hands while completing a task, or cruising around on a wheelchair. We are going to watch a short clip of what this looks like in a news report.
There are 6 stations set up around the gym here, each representing a different disability. The classes go through them one by one with a very hands-on learning experience.
Take these, yep, and they go kind of to your shoulder, and then you go, what's up? Hearing impairment, speech and language impairment, learning disability, physical impairment, and then vision impairment.
There was also a station that had kids come up with things we all have in common.
Realize that we're more alike than different.
We all are humans, and we all have to live with food and water.
Second grader Parks Butler says the exercises opened his eyes to others who are different.
It's tough to see when you have a disability that helps you not see, and you have to work hard and pay a lot of attention when you have a disability.
Lalvani and Broderick engaged in a qualitative analysis of the meanings that graduate students bring to disability awareness programs, and in particular the use of disability simulation exercises in schools. They investigated this topic by documenting their interpretations of these practices at the beginning and end of a semester. At the beginning of the semester, students were asked to read an article featured in a local newspaper that reported on one school's effort to increase the student body's understanding and awareness of disability. The article described various disability simulation activities done during the Disability Awareness Day. For instance, children smeared Vaseline on goggles and then attempted to navigate the environment, wore socks on their hands and tried to spread cream cheese on a cracker, and so on. The day also included a visit from a child with cerebral palsy who attended a nearby school. They then provided a written reflection on this article. Toward the end of the semester, volunteers from this class participated in a disability simulation as an in-class activity. For example, one was blindfolded and asked to deliver some documents to Professor's mailbox some distance away from the classroom, and another was asked to continue to take notes while having their hands bound. Other students observed and documented the volunteers' progress and monitored them for safety, as they attempted to negotiate their environment and tasks. Students who had engaged in the simulations discussed and documented their feelings during and at the conclusion of the simulations. Following the in-class activity, all students reflected on and provided written responses to the same news article they had read on the first day of class. The initial reactions were positive. These could be categorized into three groups. They saw simulations as windows into the lived experience of disability. There was the belief that simulations can be useful for non-disabled individuals to understand the lived experiences of disabilities. Students expressed, for example, that simulation activities such as those described in the article really helped children without disabilities to understand the lives of children with disabilities and to think about how it would be to live like another person who has a disability. Other comments saw simulations as awareness of the challenges of being disabled. Many students' responses focused on the notion that disability simulations provide insights into the obstacles, struggles, and challenges that children with disabilities face. For instance, one student commended the school district for acknowledging the hardships those with disabilities endure, and others believe that by highlighting the difficulties children with disabilities face, such activities could truly be an eye-opening experience for those who engage in them. The irony of this expression was not lost on the researchers. Finally, other comments could be categorized as seeing simulations as strategies for teaching positive social values. The disability simulations were understood as effective ways to teach children empathy and acceptance of diversity. Some students articulated, for instance, that engaging in these simulations teaches children to be compassionate for others and can make children more inviting of others who aren't exactly like them. However, the researchers noticed a negative shift in opinion at the end of the semester. In the end of semester responses, the majority of students argued that simulations of the type described in the news article perpetuate predominantly negative attitudes and beliefs about the experience of disability. Some students argued that disability simulations teach and reinforce stereotypes, giving children a completely biased and negative view of what it means to be disabled. Others articulated that the simulations send the wrong message by promoting the idea that people with disabilities are not able to do anything. Other comments included, simulation activities not only do not accurately represent what it is like to have a disability, but they misrepresent it in a way that perpetuates the stereotype that having a disability is difficult, frustrating, scary, and overall a negative attribute. This program has singled out those with disabilities, told their peers that they are different from them, and shown that living without a disability means you have a better quality of life. Not only misleading, but also inappropriate. These tasks perpetuate the ableism that we so strongly try to combat in inclusive education. Students would walk away feeling relieved and superior to those with disabilities. In conclusion, this research seems to show that disability awareness days may actually promote ableism instead of combating it. So, how can the school community make a stand against ableism? Well, parents and students are central to this team. The student themselves will have goals, such as wanting to have friends and be part of school activities. Parents bring knowledge of the student's history of learning, including previous strategies that have been tried and how successful they have been. Teacher assistants are a valuable resource in the classroom and can assist by freeing up the teacher to design and implement creative ways of supporting a student with a disability, rather than limiting the student to individual work with the teacher assistant. In fact, leaving the task of supporting a student with the teaching assistant can result in segregating the student in the classroom, which may cause social isolation for the student and even bullying by other students. Based on conclusions drawn from the research of Lalvani and Broderick, it seems appropriate for schools to avoid running disability awareness days for fear of inadvertently promoting the concepts of ableism. However, schools should provide professional development opportunities such as conferences for teachers or even workshops where they learn about ableism and practical strategies to support their students with disabilities. One strategy for teachers is to notice microaggressions in the classroom which are everyday verbal or behavioural expressions that communicate a negative slight or insult in relation to someone's disability. In the case of ableism, it might sound like,
"That's so lame."
"You are so retarded."
"That guy is crazy."
"You're acting so bipolar today."
"Are you off your meds?"
It's like the blind leading the blind.
"Oh, she's such a psycho."
"I'm super OCD about how I tidy my desk."
"I don't even think of you as disabled." "Can I pray for you?"
If a teacher notices any of these microaggressions, they should speak to that student separately and make them aware of this language and its effect on other students in the class. Usually students use this language out of ignorance, and when it's brought to their attention, they will be able to understand how harmful this language can be to their fellow students who have disabilities. In that case, they will understand why it's not appropriate and hopefully change their language. Here are 3 more tips for teachers, which I will also aim to incorporate in my classroom when taking a stand against ableism. Number 1, educate yourself. Learn about the specific needs of the specific students in your classroom and the best practice for how to support them. This may be through targeted independent research, through speaking with the child directly, or even through their counsellors and parents who may direct you to the individual education plans and any specific accommodations that have been tried and tested. 2. Acknowledge your privilege. Learn to be self-aware, as ableism may even present itself unintentionally. 3. Talk less, listen more. Listen to those who are marginalised instead of prematurely offering your thoughts or solutions. Hear their point of view, their ambitions and frustrations. Let them know that they are seen and heard. Above all, remember, disability is not a tragedy, ableism is. Thank you very much for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.